And thank you all for joining us today to learn more about Sage Intacct's job costing capabilities. Today, we're going to start off with a quick PowerPoint, and then we'll jump into the product. So let's go ahead and get started. This is the agenda for today, so we're going to do a brief overview about Intacct. We'll talk about dimensions. Then we'll talk about the work breakdown structure and the cost codes and the job structure inside of Intacct. We'll talk about the commitments, that's purchase orders and subcontracts. We'll review the change requests and change orders, and then we'll talk about reporting and the dashboards. After that, we'll open it up for Q&A. So a lot of clients ask, why has Sage decided to develop Intacct? Why not just rewrite one of the current projects we have? And essentially, there's 50,000 reasons. That's the number of current Sage construction and real estate companies that currently use Sage products like Sage 100 or Sage 300. And over the past years, as you all have seen, there is a great push to be able to allow companies to access their information from anywhere in the world using phones or tablets or computers. And by using a proven product and developing the job capabilities inside that product, it's the quickest way for Sage to deliver that web-based job costing capabilities. Because of those 50,000 reasons and because of Sage's reputation in the market, many clients or many other companies are rushing to interface with Sage. And because Sage Intacct is open APIs, it makes it very easy for them to develop that interface. And in the past, we had some of those interfaces with the previous products, but a lot of them required maybe a third-party integration piece. And that's no longer the case. These companies like the Procores or the Titaniums, the GC Pays, they can all direct write into Intacct, making it a valid solution for them. One of the questions we also get is about the reliability, because a lot of people are used to having that software sitting on their servers and being able to maintain that. Well, Intacct has over a 99% uptime commitment. And what that means is it's always available. The only time it's really ever down is to do the upgrade, and it's in the middle of the night when nobody's in it. We also do full redundancy. There's multiple backups every night. They are stored in multiple locations. And using all the web technology, the structure and the security available to them, there has been absolutely no ransomware or no cyber attacks on the software to date. One of the things I'd like to point out is that Intacct does win awards for its financial capabilities. The first one you see there, the AICPA, you know, a lot of people that may be on this call and go, great, that's accounting and everything, but how does that really benefit us? Well, first of all, we're the only preferred provider by the AICPA out of all the other softwares out there. So if you start thinking about, are you having to report to a bonding company? Are you going through audits? Anything along those lines, that preferred provider stamp is significant. The other one right here, the G2 leader, we are consistently winning that award for customer satisfaction. That is actual people using the software saying they are happy with it. So anybody that's been out there before understands how important that is. I do want to discuss the roadmap of Intacct for construction. And I think it's very important to kind of point this out to everybody on the call. So first of all, you can see right here the 2022 R1. That is out, it's done. What happened there? We finished up all the change management pieces to it. All of the structure of a job, the cost code, the categories, they're all done. As we move forward, which is this R2 and H2, you'll see the construction billing. I want to be specific about this. So we're going to have a complete contracts and billing module within the system, allowing us to do the AIA billing and enhanced T&M billing. This is due for release next month. So I would encourage everybody to come to our June webinar to see that new enhancement feature set. After that, we'll be working on the compliance and the lien waiver tracking in the system. It's important to understand dimensions when we start talking about Intacct. Intacct is a true dimensional software. And what are dimensions? They're a way that Sage catalogs all the transactions in the system in a meaningful way. And by using the dimensions, a company is better able to understand and analyze the information in the system. Dimensions are essentially the who, what, and where of every transaction and every document. So it's not that you have to do any more work inside the system. It's what you're already doing through an AP invoice, entering a vendor and the company and the project. It's just the way that the information is stored. Dimensions are also the work breakdown structure. So as I mentioned a second ago, the project, the cost code, and the cost type. And we're about to see, as I move into the products, the true flexibility of all those pieces and the true parent-child relationship within those pieces. So let's go ahead and get started with the presentation. Just in that slideshow real quick. Alrighty, so as we're looking at the software here, couple of things I'd like to point out. I am in a single tenant multi-company solution. So as we look across here, you can see I have a top level and then companies below it. So I am using multiple companies. You might see me switch between them during the presentation, but we can handle that kind of structure inside the software. So for my developers on the phone, the home building developers or land developers, where you're having multiple companies, a company for every project, Intacct can handle it very easily with its general ledger capabilities. And we can report at every one of those levels. And then below that, we can report at locations, classes, departments, at a financial level. So we can handle that full structure there. When we start talking about the actual jobs and the cost codes and that structure, I want to go in and I want to talk about that cost code catalog. Many of you on the call right now are around our products right now, maybe using a Sage 100, Sage 50, or a Sage 300. And you understand that you are kind of constricted as far as what you're allowed to do with these cost codes. You set up that structure and you have to stay inside that structure. There's much more flexibility in Intacct that allows us to do much more with that cost coding structure. And as you look at this right here, you can see we still have those numbering schemes and everything else. So for instance, I'm looking at 3.2.2 here. But as you look at what's below it, you can see that I don't have to stay with that numbering scheme. I can do anything I want because this is a true parent-child relationship. So I might have some cost codes that I use for pre-construction, land acquisition, things like that, and a whole nother group of cost codes for my actual building. And you can see that if I come right in here and I'll just move over a little bit, I can have completely different cost code structures. As you can see here, this is 3-3, not even a dot in it. So we really have true flexibility with these cost codes. Not only that, they're alphanumeric, as you can see right here. The reason that's allowed is because when I set up my cost codes, I actually use parent-child. So when I look at a cost code like this one right here, if we go inside and take a look at it, you'll see that we actually tell it the parent ID. So it knows exactly how to group them together, even if they look nothing alike. When we come back out and we start looking at the job itself, the same things hold true there. So I'll come over here, I'll go into jobs, and you can see here that true parent-child relationship again. So what have I seen people using this for? Maybe this is a development. Maybe this is buildings or homes within that development. This is not just parent-child. It can be grandchild or great-grandchild. We can bill at any level. We could bill at this level for all the jobs below it. But you have true consolidation up to every level using the dimension of job. So we can get that reporting you need no matter how you break out the job to get better cost reporting. As we go inside and look at a job, you can see all the information about the job. So as we're looking here, we have our customer, statuses of job, job type, which is also a dimension. The project manager, also a dimension. We can have additional information on the job. We can have, if we're, right now, the current process, if we're setting up T&M, we can put our markups for that job right here. We can get executive level information on the job. How much material, labor, subcontracts have we costed today? How much billings have we done period to date? As we go farther across, this is a really big piece here. Why do I say that? When I look at this and I'm looking at my budgets, my cost budgets for a job, notice I have more than one. I can have multiple budgets for a job. I could have a preliminary budget. I could have my actual budget. I could report off of either one of those. I could compare them. And they're very easy to set up. If I come inside this, and I'll just maximize that screen real quick. As we scroll down, we're going through and telling it, okay, for this cost code and this cost type, here's the amounts. So very easy to set up. Now, as we do change requests and things like that, which will affect your budget and the change orders, what's nice about it is it starts adding it to this budget and it separates them so I can see them. Now, on your reports, it would be approved changes, total budget, right? But here, I can actually see why that happened, what got updated, what lines, and get that information. We can also use this for some light forecasting. So you can see right here, my forecast is complete. The difference is it's still a budgetary phase, but as we're going through, you can see I have different workflow types. So I can use one called forecast, and I can forecast my cost to complete. And then that forecast could be used in some custom reporting for you, giving us that availability in the system to have all those pieces we need. Once we have the job set up and those cost codes set up, we have the ability to go in and start working on our commitments. Now, there's some interesting facts with commitments inside of Intacct. So in most systems, you essentially, here's the way that you enter a subcontract, here's the flow for it, this is the way you do it. Intacct allows us to use something called transaction definitions to define that workflow to match your workflow. So you come in as you're going through your implementation and you say, this is the way we do this. We want to have a purchase requisition. Then we want to take that requisition and turn it into a purchase order. Then we want to receive against it. And then we want to have invoices against it. Or maybe sometimes you want to take the purchase order and just create an invoice off of it. You can do that and define it and define what effect, if any, it has at each step on your GL. Same thing holds true for the subcontracts. You can see I can take a subcontract and then turn that into an invoice. So when we come out here and we look at this information, and I'm going to go into a subcontract real quick. You can see right here, I'll go in, and we see all the information about the subcontract. So as we're looking at this, we have the availability to set up the vendor information, the job information, the payment terms for the vendor. We can get into scope information. We can come down here and we can have multiple lines if we need to. We can have single lines, and we can tell it how it works. Is it unit-based or is it price-based? So we have that information. Another nice feature inside the system is the collaboration feature. So on every single document in the system, we have the ability to collaborate with others on our team. So very quickly, I can come in here and I can pull somebody up on my team and send them in an email. Check if this is correct. That's immediately going to send him an email. It's going to store that information. I can see that in multiple places on dashboards, in my chat feature, in our collaboration piece. But he's going to get an email with a link back to the document, or he can always come in and just look right up here and go right into the document from here in the collaboration. So that's a great feature inside the system. Now, as we're looking through here, I can also see on this subcontract here, I can look and see any change documents. By the way, anything in blue is a drill down. So I could go straight into the change order to see what that looked like. I can come over here and I can see the complete history. I can see we created the subcontract, which is partially converted, which is a process. That means it's been partially converted, the whole amount, to invoices. If we look down here, here's an AP invoice. Well, maybe I want to know what that is. If I click on it, notice it's not taking me out of that screen. It's opening up that invoice in a new screen for me, so I can look at all the details of what may have been previously billed. So as we're doing or getting a new invoice, we can come to our subcontract and look at it and make sure that what's being said on the invoice is what we have in the system. And then we can very easily come over here and we can convert that to an invoice. So when I do this, you're going to notice that it brings everything in. So what we're looking at here is just information about the invoice, the draw number or whatever it may be. And then down below, I don't have to enter anything because all those lines are already here. All I have to do is come in and change the amount for this period. I've already confirmed everything's correct. I've already seen it all. So I have that ability. We also have the ability in the system to attach documents. So you can attach that actual invoice from the vendor and have it in the system if you so choose to really maintain that information, giving us a complete workflow through the system. The same thing holds true when we start talking about the purchase orders. So if we come in and we look at a purchase order, remember that had a slightly different schedule to it, how it was going to flow, right? So if we look in here, I'll look at this one right here. You can see all the information. I can see what's out there to date, any retainage percentages, anything we're doing on it, how much has been converted to date. There's the 15. So you can do partial receipts, partial conversions off of this in the software if you so choose. And we still have access to the change documents and all the history. Just giving us access to the information we need in a way that we can use it. That's the key to Intacct. Moving along a little bit and just showing you kind of what's in the software today compared to next month when we get the new contracts and billing module. We do have the ability to come in and set up a contract, like a schedule of values right now. It is going to change, but I still want to show it to you. So within the system, I could go in and I could set up that schedule of values. And I do have the ability not to create the AIA, but I do have the ability to get that invoice into the system and mirror the AIA today. So if I come in here to this generate invoices, and I come in and I just say I want to do it by job, and we'll pick that job real quick, which is this one, and I come up here and do a preview, you'll notice that it's going to bring up a grid for me that allows me to choose and bill what I'd like to bill. You know, what percentage am I billing this period? So I can do that and create the AR invoice. It is not an AIA document until next month when we have that complete feature. So, but we do have the ability today to track that information and track what's been billed to date. If you choose just to enter a lump sum today, you could do that also. So a lot of people may be using a third party for their billing, right? It could be something that an owner requires you to use. So all we need to do is get a lump sum in here so we can track that AR. You can do that also. So you do have that complete flexibility inside the system. We have, as I mentioned, finished that whole change management process. So we have the ability to do change requests. So we can enter a change request and go through the system with that change request. So if I come in here, we'll take a look at this one real quick. And actually, we'll edit that so you can see how it's done. As we come through, we set up the change request. I can have an attachment. I can tell it which type of report I want to run. Do I want it to be a detail? Do I want it to be summarized for that change request that I'm going to send out? I can have an attachments that I need to attach. I break down that cost and price information right here. So for this job and this cost code, here's our cost information, but the price we're going to charge is this much. We have the chat feature here. We also have more information. Now these grids can look a lot of different ways. We always have the ability to edit the entries layout, but all that information, whether we're looking at it or not, is available to us if I just click show details. So you might want to do a price markup by percent. You could do that and have it calculate for you. You could have that in the grid if you wanted to, but all of the information and the dimensions allow us to get that dimensional reporting. Once we have our change requests out there, now we can look at doing the job change orders. So this is going to update our job budget and then allow us to convert that, the other part of it, into any line item we want on our contract. So as we look at this, and I come in and I'll just hit the change order here. We'll grab this one. When we're looking at one of these and looking at the information on it, we have our job information. So we set up the top part first. Then right here on the select, it allows us to grab any open change requests associated with this particular contract, this particular job, and put them on the change order and have that information flow through. Then we have the ability to copy that to the contract. So what that does is just copies the price information over to our contracts feature and allows us to update our contract. So it brings it in based on that single item ID. And from here I can go, well, you know, I really want to put it to change order 1 or change order 2, or maybe I want to break it over some different lines and put that information in. But there's the change order for the contract also, giving us that full flow of a project. So we're able to set up very specific cost codes. We're able to use parent-child relationships on our jobs to get the costing the way we want to see it. We're able to bill at any one of those levels. We can set up our commitments and our purchase orders and our subcontracts and have a complete flow to those. We can set up our change requests and do the change orders directly in the system. And by doing all this, now we can have reporting. So as we come out here, I'm going to go back up and I'm going to pull up some reporting here. For instance, a WIP report. And within this WIP report, the reporting capabilities and the reporting structure are very strong inside of Intacct, giving us the ability to really have some complex reports. So I can come in, I can put date sensitive information on it, and it will be date sensitive, meaning if I only want to see what happened this month, I can see what happened this month. I can pick individual jobs. I could come in and I could pick an array of jobs, and we can load that information. So now I've got my WIT report for each one of those jobs. But further than that, I can come up and click on one of these, and I can see how that contract value was made up. I can see all those different costs that came in to make our costs. I can see what was billed to date. I could drill into all of these and get all the way down to the transaction and get that information. We can come up and run reports like an estimate versus actual. Now, I'm going to use those same jobs. So we'll come in here, grab this one, and go through this one. And we'll load this. And in this report, we're going to get our budget information. So we see our original budget, any changes in our total, and our actual costs and a variance. But what's really neat about this is I can drill down further. Now I've got that same information at a cost code level. And I can go even farther than that. And I can find out by cost type what made that up and see that transactional information. So really giving us drill down capability that maybe we didn't have before in reporting. We also have a report called our cost overview report. Like this report a lot. So as I come in here and I look at the cost overview report, and we can look at either one of them, but I'll look at this one right here. This is a interactive custom report. So as we look at this report, I'm going to talk to you about it. You can see how we have it by the job, the parent cost code, the cost code. But it being interactive, instead of having to have 5 different reports out there, one to run by the cost code, one to run by parent cost code, one to run by the job, one to run by cost type, we can essentially have one report because of the reporting structure in this system. What do I mean by that? I can come right here. I'm just right-clicking and say, you know what? Include cost type on this. Now it's broken down by cost type. I didn't have to go to another report and get out of this report. I can come back up and I can say, you know what? No, let's go ahead and exclude that column. Let's even exclude this column. Go all the way up to the parent cost code for the jobs. There it is. All the numbers are still correct, giving us that information. Not only that, every report in this includes financials or otherwise, they can all be exported. They can be exported to a PDF and Excel. And as you can see, they're very column formatted. So they very easily move out into Excel if you need them to. All the reports can also be added to a dashboard very quickly just by clicking a button and telling it what dashboard you want to add it to. We can email all the reports out of the system. We can even schedule the reports to run and send if you so choose, giving you that information in the system. The last thing I want to do is talk about the dashboards. So as we start talking about dashboards, and I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to open up a dashboard. We'll open up this project financial dashboard and we'll look at it. So immediately, most people's attention gets drawn to the colors. So we can conditionally format these reports so that you can have colors show up on them. Maybe drawing your attention to something that needs to be looked at and just really keeping you ahead of problems. You're looking right here at a report. I essentially have a WIP report sitting on my dashboard. Down below, because of that dimension structure, I can have a P&L by project. I can have a P&L by customer. I can have the graphs, the charts, the reports. We can even embed web pages. And we can filter all this information. So maybe I want to use one of my different dimensions. Maybe I want to only see hotel jobs or hotels for a specific location or hotels for a specific, or hotels, jobs for a specific development. I can do that very easily and resort this and see that information. And remember, I said everything's drilled down in blue. So maybe I want to see what made up this cost. And I'm looking at a from the different accounts it hit. I can keep going. And now I'm looking at an actual journal entry that made that up. And remember I talked about the dimensions and the storing capabilities? I want you to look at this journal transaction. It's got the job and the cost code and the cost type on it, because we can do journal entries to jobs. So we have all that information. We have the vendor information all available to us. That's how we can do that profit and loss by job, by customer. And maybe I'm looking at this and I just don't know what that is. Well, it's that bill. And in a matter of clicks, I'm in the actual source document reviewing what that is and why it's there. Getting that information quickly and in a way meaningful to you. When we start, I'm going to open up one other company here. When we start looking at things like more of a residential type dashboard, I want to come in here and I want to just pull up another dashboard for you. So in this particular dashboard, which is a development dashboard, a development financials, we were asked to create something that could track the lots and lots that are still out there or have been sold to date and use those in financial reporting. So we were able to do that using statistical journals that auto-calculate based on stages of a job. And then within that, and using that statistical journal, we were able to give you an average revenue by job, breaking it down that way. So getting that information we need quickly in the system. Also, when we start talking about dates in Intacct, for those of you that have been around some of the other products out there and have had to archive or maybe wanted to run a balance sheet from 4 years ago on something because you needed it and you really weren't able to do it. Well, that information is available to you forever inside of Intacct. I could roll this date back 10 years, or I could roll it back 3 days and see where we were 3 days ago. And all of the field information will change and give us what we want to see. This is what I'm talking about by being meaningful. Really letting you understand what's going on inside your company at any given time. We also, inside the system, have the ability, when we're starting to talk about these different dashboards, to see things in other ways. Obviously, you can see we can have the KPIs. I mentioned that we could have our chat feature show up right on the system here. You can see we can have actual reporting on our dashboard. So here's a profit and loss actual versus budget. Scrolling down here, we have a statistical journal that is calculating the total square footage of all our properties and giving us information that way. You can see down below, we have a WIP reconciliation to help us with our labor subcontract materials and can drill into all those. I mentioned that we could do that web embedding. So you can see that right here. I can have my website or my webcam right on the screen here. And yeah, you can even zoom in and out with this particular feature and see that information. So there is a lot inside the system and it's only getting better with each release. And I hope you've seen that in today's presentation. And that Sage has made great strides for some of you that saw it at the beginning when we first came out with the contract piece for Intacct. And I want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar. Now, at this time, I would just like to open it up for any questions you might have.